Is it difficult to have 90 million people waiting for your next word?
Yes. Especially because, a certain portion of them are really impatient and snarky about it. It's really hard to say
Nobody here tonight, I'm
exactly
sure,
how
yeah.
many of the 90 million are that way, but, judging by the responses on Twitter, there's a lot of them, but Twitter tends to magnify. You can get one person who posts 150 messages in 3 days, all of which is, "Where is Winds of Winter?" And I'm sure those messages will be posted when anybody writes about tonight. If any of you go home and post on your Twitter account, "Hey, I was just at the Chicago Public Library Sandberg Award dinner and George R. R. Martin was there," by the third message, someone will say, "Well, what the hell is he doing there? Where's Winds of Winter?" So, at this point, it is what it is. And, I should probably leave right now and go back writing Winds of Winter.
Well, but the fact is, if you never wrote another word, you'd still be one of the most successful authors in history.
By certain parameters, yes, but
Yeah.
it's very important to me to finish A Song of Ice and Fire. I don't want it to be my Mystery of Edwin Drood here. I want to finish it, and I still have 2 more books to do, and I want to finish it strong, so people look at it and say, this entire thing is an important work, not a half-finished or broken work. I know some of the more cynical people out there don't believe that, but it is true.
Well, so yesterday, actually, you were interviewed by Scott Simon from NPR, and I thought you were very game in talking about what it's like to have so many people waiting for your books. And I have an ongoing fascination with the rhetoric that people use, because sometimes it seems to veer out of the realm of fandom and into the realm of entitlement in a way that seems to forget that you are a human person who is trying to make art, which is a very difficult and unpleasant thing. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that people fundamentally misunderstand something about what writing is, or like what this whole business is?
Well, yes, I think that some of them do, certainly, and some of them don't seem to understand that writers are different from each other. They will point out to me some other writer, and, in the time you've been working on Winds of Winter, he's published 7 novels. And indeed, there are writers who do that. There are writers who you can practically set your watch by. They publish a novel a year, boom, boom, boom. And that's great. I wish I could do that, but I can't. I never could. There are a couple novels I wrote early in my career. It took me about a year to write, but they were like a fifth the size of the novels I'm writing now. So that's not going to happen. I can't help but think I don't want all the wonderful young people I see in the audience to start taking aim at me and throw things here, but I do
Well, we
think
have all these apples.
I do think there's an aspect of a generational change about this. I think the older readers, baby boomers like me, or maybe even Generation Xers, are used to waiting for things. But the internet has created a generation that is used to instant gratification, instant answers. They want what they want, and they want it now. And I think the internet kind of creates that mindset. In the old days, when I needed to learn something, I would have to go to the library and find a book on it, and find another book on it just to double check that it was right. And now I want to know anything, I whip up Google, and boom, there's the answer in 2 minutes. 20 seconds actually, depending on how fast your internet speed is. So it creates a different set of expectations, and but unfortunately it hasn't. There are many things the internet does, but it doesn't help me write any faster. So there it is. I try to keep it into proportion. It is sometimes annoying to me that there's so many voices that just want Winds of Winter and choose to remind it to me of every opportunity. I know perfectly well that if any of you go home tonight and are on Twitter, I was just at the Chicago Symphony listening to George R. R. Martin. within the first 3 responses to your tweet, someone will saying, "Where's Winter? Why isn't he writing it?" I mean, go home, try it, see if it doesn't work that way. But on the other hand, I think for the vast majority of writers, including some really good writers, I mean, we had, like I said, like 80 writers on the stage yesterday at the Carl Sandburg Awards, and many distinguished writers who've written novels and works of nonfiction, terrific stuff. And you probably would never have heard of many of them, and their books probably sell relatively few copies. For the vast majority of writers, including me for much of my career, the big question is obscurity. It's how do you get yourself noticed among all the books out there? And so I try not to be ungrateful about the fact that I have millions of people eagerly waiting for my next book, because it certainly beats having no one give a damn about when my next book is coming out, which is the fate of most writers.
Most writers,
that
yeah.
they have to struggle with. So you have to keep all of these things into proportion. I do think, you know, with Game of Thrones achieving bestseller status, the books, actually not Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was not a bestseller when it first came out.
Was it Song of Swords?
It was, the second book, Clash of Kings, hit the New York Times list for 1 week at number 13 and then vanished. The third book, Storm of Swords, debuted a little higher and lasted a little longer. Wasn't until the fourth book, Feast for Crows, that I hit number 1 on the Times list. And then the show hit, and you know the books were already number 1 New York Times bestsellers, but the show made everyone crazy about them. And it also made me famous to a degree that I'd never anticipated in my life being famous. But this happened to me when I was in my 60s. So it's changed my life in ways that I don't necessarily love, although there are things about it that are great, probably more good things than bad things. But it certainly was a change. But I'm glad it happened to me, strange as it seems, when I was in my 60s, because it's given me an understanding of why people like Lindsay Lohan and Justin Bieber go crazy. I mean, to be a 16-year-old kid and suddenly have that level of fame and attention and loss of privacy and thousands of people commenting on every shirt that you wear or every word that you say. I don't know how any 16-year-old could possibly handle that. So I at least had many long years of life on Earth before I descended into the strange world of celebrity.
And a lot of opportunity to make your work on your own terms and not kind of be
Right.
assessing your success in that way.